Hi, everybody. Okay, so after trying to add a friend like a million times, just kidding. I'm really hoping that it works because here we go. Oh, where'd it go? All right. Ooh, where are you? So tonight is, let's see, Monday, May 16th. And it is 6:40, so we're just a little bit behind schedule, but that's okay. It doesn't really matter. You know, um, again, here I go with Okay, so tonight's guest is Jo Smith, and I am just waiting for her. Here we go. Hopefully it'll center. It's so weird because I can't on a computer, but I can get it to work on my phone. So I don't know. It says an auditing. Hey there.
Hey.
Okay, so I figured this out. It's so weird because you would think that when you're doing it on the computer, you have like more options, but apparently not. So I had to do it on my phone, and voila, here we are. Yeah,
Nice.
so it's working. All right. So, and you can hear my printer going off crazy in the background, so I'm really sorry. I just want to make sure that everybody can hear us. If you can hear us, just go ahead and just leave a little comment, yes, or smiley face, or, you know, whatever. And again, tonight, our guest for Recovery Roundtable is Jo Smith, and I will let Jo introduce herself. Give us a little bit of background, Jo. Where are you from? And, you know, all that good detail stuff. So that's how we'll start. Oh, actually, you know what? After introductions, I almost forgot. I'd like to do just kind of opening prayer and just to start off in a good way. And then we'll go ahead and just kind of get into our discussion, if that's
Okay.
Good. Okay.
Bye. Buddy, my name is Joanna Smith. I'm from Newtown, North Dakota, but I grew up in North Dakota. I'm a recovering addict, and that's about it. I'm 1 year sober, and yeah.
Awesome. Okay. So this is Jo, everybody. I'm really excited for episode 3. You're number 3. Hey. third time's a charm. Just kidding. But let's start off. We'll just say a quick prayer because, again, you know, we want to do everything in a good way. We have, you know, all the best intentions when we are sharing our stories and all that good stuff, right? So,
Right.
Okay. So, you want to pray or you want me to pray?
You go ahead.
I know I'm having a hard time like adjusting to doing that because I am usually, you know, younger than everybody, and it makes me feel really weird and uncomfortable. But I guess, you know, it's all right. So, all right. So, wakanta ka, God, Father, Creator, whichever name that we know you by, we ask that you be with us tonight and be with others tonight and every day moving forward. Especially those that are struggling with addictions, homelessness, violence, any other type of abuse, and blessing those that are doing really well. God, Father, we really ask that you take care of everybody that's going through recovery on their journeys in a good way, and give them strength. And we ask, you know, all the spirit helpers to come and give one another strength so that we can all move on in a good way and live life in a good, happy way and make the best of everything. And God the Father, we ask that you give those that are really struggling, give them extra strength so that way, in hopes that they can find their way someday. God the Father, we know that there are a lot of relatives out there, a lot of friends, a lot of relatives that are struggling and leaving this earth way too soon. God the Father, we just ask that you take individuals, into your arms and welcome them into your spirit, and give them peace. And so we ask that you only let us speak good words this evening, good thoughts, good words, positive words, encouraging words, and ask that the words that come out of our mouths and out of our minds, they reach people in a good way, because that's our goal. That's our goal, is to reach people in a good way and inspire people, encourage people, and let them know that, there's more out there than just that, and that we all can live good, happy lives. And so that's all we ask of you, God the Father. Okay, as you can tell, makes me very nervous, but that's okay. All right, so here we go. My printer keeps going off, so I'm really sorry if that's like a big distraction. I don't know if you guys can hear that really bad. So I will just kind of let you take the mic, Joe. So far the guests that have come on Recovery Roundtable have just really kind of started with their childhood, and whatever makes you feel comfortable. I don't ever want to put anybody in an uncomfortable place, and if talking about something makes you uncomfortable, or anybody in the audience uncomfortable, please let me know, or you can just say, nah, I'll pass. Okay, so yeah, I'll just kind of give you the mic, and as you can go as much into detail as you want, or as little. And then I'm hoping that if we have any questions from our viewers, if you're okay with that, I like to give people the opportunity just to ask questions. So, okay. All right. Awesome.
Okay. Hey everybody again. I'm Joanna Smith. Like I said, I grew up in Cannonball, but I'm from Newtown. Sorry, I'm from Newtown. My dad's side is from Newtown, and my mom's side is from Standing Rock. And I grew up with my grandma, me and my siblings, and it was kind of a rough childhood growing up. Growing up on the reservation, where I dealt with a lot in my childhood. I've dealt with physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional abuse, and that was always tough. And to be growing up with my grandma and having my mom and dad not around, that was even more tougher. And growing up too, I was always the quiet one, the quiet one, because it was always growing up. I just want to say too, like, when I tell my story, I don't want to like offend any of my family members, any of my my grandma, my mom. I don't tell this to offend them. I tell this because it's how I grew up and how I felt. And so if I offend anybody or any of my family members that are watching right now, it's not my intentions. Okay, so growing up with my grandma was hard, like I said. Not having my mom and not having my dad there. And my grandma was very strict, very, very strict. And it was like kind of like she grew up teaching us how she grew up, and back in the day, they grew up tough. They grew up being raised tough, and that's how I grew up too, with my grandma. So it was really, really took a big hit on me, and I'm sure my siblings too. So as we got older, uh, moving from house to house, family to family, uh, it was tough. And my mom was in addiction too at the time, and so uh, like she would come back and come back and be with us for a little bit and then up and leave again. So it was always left on our own, left to survive on our own and fend for ourselves. And as I got older, you know, I just uh kind of adjusted to survival mode and kind of, you know, getting where you fit in. And with me, it was, you know, I was not really the outgoing person, and I fit in with, you know, my family members that were not doing too good too, you know, that were in addiction and, you know, drinking and smoking. And that's where I wanted to be, because that's also where I, you know, the alcohol and the drugs, that's where it numbed my pain. It numbed the trauma that I had went through as a child. It numbed my mom not being there and my dad not being there, and, you know, the abuse and everything. uh it just numbed it. And I also was not an outgoing person, so when I took those that alcohol and the drugs, I was an outgoing person. You know, it got me out of myself, which I thought was myself. You know, like when I took it, it was like, oh, this is the real me, you
Mm.
know. Yeah, so yeah, as I got older, everything progressed. And um up to ninth grade, we just kind of moved back and forth from house to house, and um family members to family members. And, you know, we all kind of separated then. um in my ninth grade year, I moved to Texas with my mom. um you know, I finally had enough of moving house to house, and, you know, I wanted that mother's love that I was seeking place to place, and, you know, I wasn't getting. So my mom moved to Texas when we was about in seventh grade, and I was living with my uncle, and I just didn't want to stay there no more. You know, I moved to Texas with my mom, and, you know, at the time I thought that was a good idea, because I was like, yes, I get to be with my mom. Like, you know, I get to be with her and finally do all these things. But it was just like, you know, she was still in her active addiction, and, you know, I was still in mine too, you know, just moving to a different state, and a state where it was like, you know, everything and anything was a lot cheaper. And that's where it really hit me hard. And I joined basketball and everything too, and I was really well known out there for basketball. And that just didn't cut it, you know, because I was still the not outgoing one. I was still shy. I was still, you know, struggling with who I wanted to be and what I wanted to be and all of that. And I wasn't too sure. I was just really um, a struggling kid growing up. I struggled hard with self-esteem and depression and, you know, abandonment issues and, you know, all of that, still trying to deal with the trauma hood issues too. And, you know, basketball was like the one place where, like, I felt like I was, you know, going somewhere or going to be something, and to get away. Like, basketball was supposed to be my getaway, you
Yeah.
know. um
Yep. I get it.
yeah. And but it just didn't work out with me. Like, no matter how hard I tried, no matter, it always brought back to where in myself where I wasn't good enough, or I I'm still not sure yet. Like, I still like to be over here, like numbing the pain, numbing the stuff, getting out of myself, getting out of my self-esteems and all of that. And so I just kept drinking and kept drinking and kept drinking. At the age 16, I came out to my mom that I was gay. And um, actually, I didn't come out to her. My sister told my mom that I was gay, and that was like, that was it. Like, if my mom, she did not like that at all, and she kicked me out and like pretty much disowned me out in Texas. So I was like off on my own, and that really hit hard, and that was like that also took a uh big hit on my self-esteem even more, because it was like, now I'm really not worth it. Now I'm really, really going through some things. And uh, our relationship wasn't too good because of my sexuality. And I mean, she was still there as a mom, but it was just rocky. We would bump heads and bump heads and bump heads. And so I would just go off in Texas and be on my own, live friends to friends. And basketball was still there. My coaches would like take care of us, take us in and take care of us, and like buy us shoes and all this and that. But to me, that wasn't enough. That wasn't enough, because I didn't care about all that. I just wanted to get out of myself and numb these feelings, numb this pain that I was going through, because you know I wasn't being accepted for who I was. Um, and so at the age of 19, I didn't graduate in Texas like I was supposed to, because I dropped out of school. I stopped playing basketball. I just dove right into uh, out in the streets and doing stuff, getting high, selling and drinking a lot. And so I didn't graduate in Texas. I came back home. Came back home at the age of 18, and I I started going to school in Solent just to finish up. And even when I got back, I I went there to Texas when I first left, as a girl, long hair, dressing like a girl, and then I come back and I have this complete change, and I'm just like dressing like a boy, like nobody knows who I am, and everything is so different about me, and it's it's still not accepted for me. I still didn't get accepted for who I was. It got worse. It's just like my family did not like it at all, and it was just being talked down on, and being being an LBGT. It's hard. It's really hard. It was back in the day, but I mean, it's still kind of hard to this day. Um, and so I just kept diving more and more, into my addiction. I would do anything to feel numb, to forget who I was. And that's what I did. Like, alcohol was my best friend, drugs were my best friend. Nobody understood me but those two things. And it was like I was like selfish, like I didn't care what people thought of me when I was drinking, or when I was using. Like, you can call me whatever name in the book, like I did not care. And when I got sober, I felt those, like I felt all the emotions that you didn't want to feel, like the regret and the shame, the guilt, because I'm not supposed to like girls, or I'm not supposed to, see the same sex as, liking them.
Mm-hmm.
And that it didn't sit well with my family, because I was always trying to please my family. I was always trying to do it for my family. I was trying to get out of um, get out and be a big basketball. Basketball was my way out, because that was going to be me and my family's way out, because I was going to, carry them and do big things. And so families what families said, and thought of me really mattered at the time, at the age of like 18. And then, um,
Can I ask you, was it your expectation or like your family's expectation to play ball and, you know, make it big time and carry them? You know, was it something that you expected out of yourself, or was it like other people like, yeah, you know, just
well,
expecting that to happen?
yeah, I liked basketball growing up, but like I said, like it was me. So when I first went to Texas, like in the bigger schools they have PE and they have athletics, and I was just in the regular PE, and I was in this PE class like schooling up all the boys and just making all these baskets and
That's,
stuff.
I mean, that's nothing new, right? Girls play with guys all the time and get they school
Yeah,
boys. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like that's just like that's res ball, right? That's just how the game is played.
yeah.
Can't
Well,
hate any for that.
I brought Texas, and the coaches recognized me, and I did not want to play. Like I did not want to play ball at all. I just was like, no, I wasn't having it. And so they're like, "Who's your mom?" I was like, "Oh my gosh." And I knew my mom was gonna like make me play. So I was like, "Okay, I'll play, but only if my sister comes and plays with me." So she came down and we played together, and it was all good. And we both kind of like, struggled right there through Texas with our mom still being in her active addiction, and you know, um jumping from boyfriend to boyfriend. So it was really hard to move from like city to city to city, and still trying to be in the same county to play ball because our coaches wanted us to.
Right.
And so yeah, I think a little bit was my expectation, but at the same time it was like I'm part of my mom's too. Like she wanted me to play.
Yeah.
And so it kind of just like grew on me after a while. After a while, it grew on me because I still didn't know who I wanted to be and who I was. Um, and I struggled with that for the longest time on who I was and what to be, and who I really am as a person. And yeah, um, where was I?
Sorry.
What is that? Um, Oh right. So I graduated in Solon there in Cannibal, and kept drinking and drinking and drinking, and felt like it was the normal thing to do is drink all the time, and it was like I was falling into this deep deep depression, and it was like I couldn't find my way out. I couldn't find my way out. All I wanted to do was drink, and I would go weeks and weeks and weeks, and get up, drink, go to bed, pass out, get up again just to cure the hangover that I would not feel. And things changed when I got a scholarship to United Tribes, and and when I got that scholarship, it was like the whole everything changed. This was my chance again to do something right, to do right again, to turn my life over, to turn uh to do good, you know. And everything went good, everything was going good, and you hit that college stage, right? And it's basketball. And so you hit the parties, you hit the drinking every weekend, and I fell right back into that again. I fell right back into that crowd. Um, I got to the point where I was uh, drinking before game days, and they would have to come wake me up like, "Hey, it's game time," like you need to be there because you were like one of the players we need. And so after a while, that that didn't cut it. That didn't cut it. Um, me being the player that they needed, you know, because I was that's how big headed I got. That's how big headed alcohol made me feel. Like, oh, when I drank, like I was the superhero. Like you guys needed me to play. Like you
Mm-hmm.
guys can't play that game without me. You know, that's how I was when I was on drugs and alcohol during those times. And after a while, that didn't cut it. You know, it was just slacking, and my game was off. And you know, I'd be high during the games, and I would, you know, I'd get mad at other players for messing up when it was my fault. And so I got cut. I stopped going to class. I stopped going to class too for a while, and I fell back into, you know, drinking again, back down to Cannonball, and just living with my aunt there for a while, and then at the time my sister was playing at NHSC up in Newtown, and so she was like, "Hey, you know, you need to get it together. Come on up here. You know, we'll put you on the team." And so I got a scholarship to go play in Newtown, another scholarship, and so I went up there, and you know, it was really good to be up in Newtown. You know, I grew, like I said, I'm from there, but I didn't grow up there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so when I got up there, it kind of felt like a little bit of home. You know, like a little bit of like peace, and not knowing anybody, and being up there and being in basketball and like getting to know everybody and stuff, and you know, family members that I didn't know who were family and all
Yeah.
that. So it was a really big help. You know, it made me feel less lonely. It got me out of the less depression that I was in, and the less self-pity, because that's what I was filled with too. I was filling myself with self-pity every time I drank, you know, like, oh, this is going wrong because this happened to me, or this is happening to me because you know, just making excuses on
Mm-hmm.
excuses of why my life isn't going good. um so when I got up there, everything was good. You know, I stopped drinking there for a while, and I, I still smoked weed, but and I still did pills, but drinking, I stopped drinking. And I mean, doing one thing just to do another thing is doesn't, like, you know, substitute it out or make it any better. Like, you know, oh, I stopped drinking, so but I'm just smoking, you know? And that's how I was too. Like, I'm not doing that, but I'm still doing this, but at least I'm not doing that over there, you know?
Yeah, I actually just heard somebody, sorry, like I just heard somebody share that with me. And I don't even remember who I was talking to, but that's exactly what they said. Like, well, at least I'm not doing that. And then they
Yeah,
moved to the next. Oh,
yeah.
that was my last guess. Oh my gosh. She shared that and I was like, wow. You know what? Yeah, like it just it makes so much sense. And then yeah, and so you're like literally the second person that has said
It,
that. And so
it's
yeah.
crazy how our mind thinks like, oh, at least I'm not doing that over there, you know? Like, those guys are doing meth over here. I'm only smoking weed. Like, I mean, it's all the same thing, you know?
Right?
It all takes us back to the same spot where we came from, which is like depression, loneliness, self-pity, and all of that, you know? And I kind of lost where I was again.
Hurry, me again. I'm sorry, like if something like pops in my head, like
No,
when
you're good.
somebody's talking, I'm like, I gotta say it out loud.
You're good. So I was making it like, okay, like I said, like at least I'm not drinking. I'm only doing pills, and I'm only doing this, and I'm kind of getting my life together, you know. I'm kind of doing this. I'm kind of doing getting on the right path, but not really, but I kind of am. And so everything was going good, and you know, we start winning our games and winning our games. I think we went 10-0 our first season, and that was really a big high for me itself.
Mhm.
So I would like, I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna do pills anymore. I'm just gonna smoke weed because, you know, again, back to that. At least I'm not doing that, and I'm like leaning myself off of the addiction that I've got going on here,
Mhm.
that I don't think that I have going on either. It was one thing. It was like, I don't have addiction. Like, no, like, yeah, I can drink, but I can stop drinking. You know, I can stop drinking anytime I want, but I just don't want to. I
Yeah.
just don't want to stop using the pills. I just don't want to stop smoking weed. You know, and at the time, I didn't think that was an addiction. You know, and I didn't think anything was wrong with me. Um, until I stopped doing the pills for a little while, and everything was going good. You know, everything was going smooth. Like, you know, became a student athlete, and you know, all of this stuff, and then we won AHEC, uh, AHEC that year, and then after that, it was like, then I got the big head again, right? Like, oh, we're we're the number one team in the state right now, you know, for AHEC tribal. Um, I got the big head again, and then I started drinking again and started doing all of this stuff again. I started partying because not only did that the basketball like take me out of myself and get me this big rush high, but it got me like, I deserve this. You know, I deserve to have a drink. I deserve to do all this because I'm doing so good. Like, I'm doing a good job with my life right now. So
Mhm.
I'm gonna go have a shot for that. I'm gonna go do a line. And and that's what I thought, and that's what I fell into, and fell into again. And then just as I was slowly getting myself out of that depression, like, I slowly waned myself back into that depression and that you know, that self-pity and that loneliness and all of that. And and so, yeah, I played ball there for a little while after that, but you know, I kind of lost that motivation after that first, like, you know, that first go around. And it was like, I just lost motivation to even do anything, you know, because I was so worried about drinking. I was so worried about, you know, where the party's at, because, you know, because the champs are here, you know, like, I was in, I was in that glory stage where I was, yeah. And and then after I stopped going to school, and I would also, I would get into these like relationships where I would think that you know, relationship after relationship, that think that they would also fix me. I
Mhm.
think that I'm looking for like, in a woman, I was looking for my mom. Like, I was looking for like, trying to seek my mom in some of these women, you know, seek that kind of love. And it was just, it wasn't working either. You know, it was relationship to relationship, trying to think that they can fix me, that this person can, oh, I'm in love, like, this person can fix me, they make me a better person, and they change me to be a better person. And it was just like, you know, kind of like substituting the alcohol with,
Mhm.
like, you know, a relationship.
Huh.
And just, it was not working for me either. You know, after I I was selfish in a lot of them, and I was still using and still drinking, and find uh trying to find something to make myself feel better about myself. And so after after a while, like, it was just you know, I just got out of control, and I just went off the rails for a little while. And then I started getting into you know, I started selling the stuff to be, you know, because that was the new thing, like, the new cool thing, the new cool thing to do. Like, everyone was doing it, and let me hop on that train because I still don't know where I want to fit in at, you know. I still don't what type of crowd I wanted to be in, like who I was again. And I was still trying to find myself, and I was still trying to, you know, learn all these things about myself, and it was all just not good things. Um and so after I started, you know, getting into selling, I was doing it to feed my addiction because it wasn't like I didn't have a job. I worked for a little bit, but I jumped job after job because, you know, I I didn't, you know, I couldn't get up to make a job. I couldn't last long enough to have a job, you know. Um so I started, you know, selling to feed my addiction. And then I ran into at the age of 23, I ran into fentanyl. And that was probably the worst, you know, that's probably the worst drug anybody can ever try. I know for me it was because when I tried that, like, you know, everything went away. Like everything, like all the problems that I've done, all the guilt that I felt, all the shame that I felt, the depression, and the wrongdoings that I did, you know, all of that just it just went away. And not only did it make me feel numb, but it made me it made me like invincible. You know, like I can do anything. Um and it's like as I got into that more and more, I became more selfish. I became more self-centered, and I didn't care like who you were, or, you know, I didn't care about any of that. Like I had no values, I had no morals, I had no self-respect. I had none of that whenever I was using. And and it was terrible. And I think I know like at the end of my addiction, uh I was using up to 40 to 50 pills a day, fentanyl pills a day, just to just to stay sane, you know, because I had hit survival mode then. I had like in my mind, in my body, like I needed that. I needed that to survive. You know, I needed that to get up in the morning. I needed that to do anything. And if I didn't have that, like I literally felt like death.
Mm-hmm.
And it sucked. And you know, all while that was happening, little did I know, like I was getting myself into more deeper diving into these people that I wasn't supposed to be messing with, people that were, you know, like up there with the drug task force people. And I little did I know, like I was just diving deeper and deeper into that. And so 3 months after I had got addicted to fentanyl, 3 months later I also got hit with an indictment. um so in that little time, 3 months, that little time that I was, you know, going off on it, I got myself caught up into, you know, something that's probably gonna be forever, like a lifetime dealing with, you know, because I'm gonna be a felon. Like I'm a felon right now, so that's like hard to get jobs, hard to get a house, hard to do anything, you know. But as hard as it is, I think it was like a blessing in disguise, because if I didn't get hit with that, if I didn't, you know, if God didn't like, you know, they say that he's gonna like he's gonna like hit you with something that's, you know, a blessing in disguise, like
Yeah.
whether you or not. Like he like saved my life pretty much, because I know if I was still out there using, and if I was still, you know, in that, I probably wouldn't be alive right now. um so I have been to 4 treatments, and this last one, my first treatment, I so I was in and out of jail too, and I got to go to treatment. So got out, went to jail, got to go to treatment, got out. I was doing good for like 5 months, and then I relapsed. I relapsed because again, it was like one thing that was like triggering to me was like happiness, or like I said, like I win the game, I've got to celebrate. Like I got this job, so I was like, oh my gosh, I got a job. Like I'm doing so good. I have to go drink, and so that's what I did. Like I went to go celebrate, and that's one of my triggers. Like I'm like anything, like sad, happy, mad. It's like, dang, I'm mad. Whatever. I'm just gonna go use so I don't have to feel it. I'm happy. I'm gonna go use so I can celebrate, and so that's what I did, and it was with me and alcohol. I can't just have one. Like, I cannot just have one. Like, most people, just go have a drink, and not me. Like, once I get that first drink, I'm on to the next one and the next one, then the next one until I'm shutting that bar down. And I'm looking for a party to go to after the bar, too. And that same night, too, I was like, after that shot, and I ended right back up to using again. And I was an IV user, so I was sitting there, with the needle in my arm, and you know, not knowing, not thinking, not caring that I had, you know, if I do this again, I'm gonna go back to jail, because that wasn't an issue to me. Jail wasn't an issue to me. I didn't care. When you're in your active using, and you're an addict, you don't think about all that stuff, because you just want to get that high. You just want to
Mhm.
feel that again, just one last time. And it never ends like that. It never ends one last time with me, anyways. I'm not speaking for anybody else, but just for me, it never ends good with me, because I want to keep going, and I want to keep going, and I don't care if I have to go to jail. I don't care if I have to go back to jail. I don't care. But I'm going to keep running until they find me, and I'm going to keep using until they find me. And so I after I relapsed, I put myself back into treatment in Florida for the second time. And I was like, I'm gonna get it right this time. I'm gonna get it right this time. And it's Florida too, so I'm like gonna go for a vacation. Even more funner. Um,
Was
a
that the
little,
mentality? Like, Florida, all right.
yeah, yeah. Like, for me, it was like, all right, which treatment I'm going to, just send me to one, just send me to another one, so it could be a little vacation for me.
Mhm.
That's how it was for me too. It wasn't like, oh, I'm so ready to quit. Like, it was because that's what I thought it was. But now that I think about it, it was like, no, it was just, you know, my little, so I can stay out of jail
Mhm.
longer. So I didn't have to go back to jail, so I don't have to sit longer than I have to. And so I went to Florida, and I've learned tools and stuff. I learned everything, uh, everything that I wanted to learn, everything that I wanted to learn. I took with everything else just stayed there when I left the door, because I still, me, like, I'm a closed book. I don't like to open up. I don't like to you know talk about things. I don't like to talk about my feelings. So to be like sitting right here and like saying all this stuff is like a really big step for me, because like me a year ago, I'd be like, no. Probably like 5 months ago, I'd probably been like, no, thank you. um I I'm a really introvert. I
Mhm.
just like to sit back and you know geez, look at those guys and their problems. That sucks, but you guys aren't gonna hear about me and what's going on with me. But I'm good though. I'm good.
Yeah.
And that's how I was. And when I left Florida, uh, you know, me and some other people, we were on the plane, and you know, it was back to drinking again. You know, we started drinking on the plane, and we were already planning like who we're gonna get our next, you know, pie from. Do you know who someone to get from, and blah blah blah. And that's how it was like, and that's how it was for me. Like I had it in my head. I had the reservations in my head that I wasn't gonna be sober. And so an hour off of the plane, you know, again, I had a needle in my arm. I was shooting up again. And an hour after that, I was on my way to Newtown to my godmom's to, you know, pretend to be sober, pretend to be happy, pretend that, you know, I was on a good path again. And it just, it, it just wasn't anything to me. Like I didn't have no feelings because I've learned how to numb that at a really young age. I've learned how to numb my feelings and how to not talk about them, because if it wasn't anything good or anything um, positive or anything like that, like you don't talk about it. At
Mm-hmm.
least in my family, you don't talk about your problems. You know, what's behind closed doors is behind closed doors, will stay behind closed doors.
Yeah.
and and I think that's like that with like a lot of like families, you know,
Yeah.
like all over. And and that's what's really tough too. That's what really took a hit on me, because I, you know, all that stuff that I was supposed to keep behind closed doors and keep my mouth shut about, like all of that was just like eating at me. You know, I just like wanted to tell somebody, but I just kept it kept it in kept it in. And I think that's one thing that had a huge part on you know, leading me back to using. And uh so moving forward back to you know, the second time, and going back to Newtown, right? Being happy, and you know, yes, I did it again. Like, you know, like I just start hanging out. Like I had to be sneaky about it this time, because I was doing good, and I was doing so good. And my family was like, you know, they all believed in me. They all believed in me, and they were so proud of me. And I was like, yeah, you know, like just playing the victim and playing the role, you know, putting that mask on, and and really, you know, making a good story out of, you know, I'm sober, I'm so sober, and that treatment did so good with me. And you know, and I was still so I was sneaking around and all that. And like a week after I got out of treatment in Florida, I overdosed.
Mm.
And I overdosed and I died for 15 minutes. Uh and 3 months to bring me back. And you know, don't remember I don't remember much. But I know the friends that were there with me, you know, these friends that are struggling too, you know. I woke up and nobody was there with me. You know,
Mm.
I was all alone, and I was like shit. And I wasn't mad that I wasn't mad that they weren't there with me. I was mad that they didn't I was mad that they called the cops. I was mad that they like I was mad. Yeah, I was mad that the cops came, and the cops had to like bring me back to life. Like, you know, like you don't wake up from dying for 15 minutes and like be grateful that you're alive. You, like me, I was like, dang, like why'd you guys have to call the cops? You know, like you guys just couldn't catch yourself. And
Yeah.
yeah, and now I have to deal with my family again. Now I have to deal with like my probation officers, and now I'm going back to jail, and all I want to do is get high. You know, all I want to do, that's all I wanted to do. And And it sucked because I was so selfish. Like I didn't care. Like my family and like, when they heard that I OD'd and all this and that, it was like they were devastated, you know? And I was just like, yeah, yeah, like whatever, like trying to find my money like when I got up just so I can like go get high again, like hitting up my friends like, yo, do you still have that one left over? Like I thought I hit it, and it was just like it was terrible. And um so I went back to jail again, and then I was sat in there for a good while, and I was like, when you sit in jail, you're like, please God, get me out of this. I will never do it again. I will never do it again. I'll never pick up again. This time I'm gonna change my life. Just help me get out of this one thing once. When I prayed, it was always to get me out of something, never to, get me out of this, God. I won't do it ever again just to get out and go and do it again. That's how I prayed. And if I just growing up too, I wasn't really a spiritual person. I was never really taught spiritual things. It was always like uh, I guess religion. Um and I never really understood it. I never really believed in all of that. I mean, I knew there was something, but uh I was so mad at God, because if there was a God, like my life wouldn't be going like this. My mom would be like, I would have one big happy family, and I would grow up in a perfect home and all of this. Like there was a God, like I wouldn't be living like this.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I thought. And so, you know, praying to God to help me get out of this one more time, one more time, one more time. And I mean, prayers were answered because I was getting out, and I was getting a chance to go back to treatment a third time. And the third time, I did really good. I went to Raleigh, North Dakota, and I did really good. I took it serious. I took it serious this time, and I was opening up, and I was telling my feelings. I was letting things out that I wouldn't normally, let out. The trauma and the the stuff that I was dealing with. My best friend passing away, from suicide. And I was dealing with all that. I was dealing with grief, and I was dealing with all that in this one. And it went great. I got out and I got into sober living, the sober living that I'm at now, which is Blessed Builders. I got into there, and I was one of the first women in there too. And everything was going good. I was on that the pink cloud, you know, the pink cloud, trying to save everybody, you know, trying to do the most.
Mm-hmm.
And I was still fresh, like I was still fresh. And you know, it was a lot to try to take on, while trying to rebuild my life again, trying to get a job that I like, trying to um, rebuild my relationship with my family, and all of that. And I was still not dealing with myself though. I was let me go help these guys so I don't have to deal with the things that are still at me.
Mm-hmm.
Because yeah, let me go fix these guys because I'm fixed, but I'm not fixed, and so that's what I was on for a while. um Trying to save the world, trying to save the reservation, and you know and I still had myself to save. And I think at my 10 months, I everything was just overwhelming, and I relapsed again. And I think around this time last year, which is really hard, like not hard, but it's just like to think like, dang, this year around last year, I was like, you, I was like, I relapsed and all of that, and I,
It's
um,
yeah.
oh, okay, yes. So around this time last year, I was in jail. I was back in jail around this time last year. And it was always the same thing, like a cycle. It was a cycle with me, and uh, yeah, I sat in jail, and then uh, came to my sentencing, and now I'm you know, I got probation, and I'm grateful to be here. Grateful to be here again. I'm grateful to be back in Blessed Builders again. If it wasn't for them, like coming to my sentencing, the attorney said, like, I was going to jail.
Mhm.
I was going to prison. Like, he was like, you've done messed up so many times. Like, I don't know what you expect. Like, don't expect to like get out. And the Blessed Builders, like the people there, they're like they're like family to me now, you know. And they came and like testified for me, and the like it was God. Like, it was God, like, giving me another chance through them. And now now I'm out, sober and clean. It's been a year sober, and I'm happy with where I'm at right now. I dealt with the depression, and I found coping mechanism ways to deal with the depression, to deal with the loneliness, and to deal with my self-esteem. I'm finally happy for me, who I am.
Mhm.
And it took me a long time to like get out of that you know the depression and the
But
thoughts, and like
mhm.
not being good enough, not being uh, accepted for who I was. And today I can say that I'm proud to be LGBT. I'm proud to be a recovering addict, because we do recover. And I'm like super grateful to be here, because I'm super grateful to be myself, because I can actually sit here, and I can actually like talk to you, and I can talk on this live, and I can I spoke at a gala. I can stand up there in front of 160 people, and feel okay, and feel accepted, and feel myself, and feel happy, because I've accepted who I am, you know and that was where it was in the end. Like, that's where it was all along, like me accepting me for who I am. It didn't matter like who anybody else accepted me. Like,
Mhm.
I have to live with myself. I'm the one that wakes up every morning and deals with myself, the emotions and all of that. And so you know I've built myself a foundation to where I'm happy, and I've got a good job, and I've got a good place that I'm living at. I've got a good support system, and my relationship with my family is good, and my relationship with myself is good. And yeah, I don't know what else to say.
You're like, now I'm here right now.
I'm here.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot. That's a lot. And I mean, you went pretty deep with your backstory. And I think it's good. I mean, I know sometimes, for some people that's hard. It's really hard to like be so vulnerable and share things like that. Um, and I'm really thankful, that you were able to do that.
Yeah,
And you know, because there's other people right now that are, you know, in those stages or in the contemplation stages or pre-contemplation stages, you know what I mean? And like, I feel like sometimes you have to hear somebody else share their story or, you know, their experience or, you know, how, just like how you said, you know, like struggling with identity, you know, and who you were as a person and, you know, trying to figure out who you wanted you to be, you know, how you said that. And I'm like,
Yeah.
man, you know, that's like a pretty, to me, that's like pretty extreme for being, you know, as young as you were at the time when you're like thinking that, you know,
Yeah.
because it's like you're setting these such high expectations and standards at such a young age. And I get it, you know, I get it, but it's kind of like, don't do that to yourself, you know, don't, why, you know, I mean, I've been there, I know how that feels. And I'm just like, later on in life, you're like, man, nothing happens overnight. You know, you're not going to be a basketball star overnight. Maybe for some people, I don't know, it wasn't me.
Yeah, definitely.
But, you know, just things like that, you know, like getting a home or getting a car or getting a bike or, you know, anything like that. Like it takes time. It takes time to work up to those things. Getting a job, you know, I find it's so crazy that like a lot of these places, and maybe things have changed now, but for some people, you know, and they may be grown, they may be, you know, older adults and may not have much or any work experience, right? And they go and they try to get a job and they say, well, there's no experience required. But then when they get to their interview, you know, that's the expectation. Well, you're 25 and you've never had a job. You know what I mean? And it's
Right.
like, first of all, you don't know where this person came from. You don't know, you know, what's available to them in that area. Um, just like, you know, back home on Center Act, like really, there's not a lot of job opportunities for people, you know,
Right.
and it's like, I know that there's a lot of people that want jobs, but there's just not enough. And transportation, that's a really big, you know, part of it too. Not everybody has working vehicles and it's expensive. You know, it's
Right.
expensive to have a car or to get rides, you know,
Yeah.
paying
It
that kind of taxi fee or whatever, you know, and it's it's not as easy as people make it out to be.
right. It's definitely sad too to see, like, you know, some of my family members, they're still young, and you know, to see them out here, like out there trying to trying to find trying to find a way to live, you know, trying to, they're like, they're being the parents in
Yeah.
the relationship, and that's what I see a lot on you know, down in Standing Rock. Little kids trying to be, you know, the mother or the father to their mother who's struggling with addiction. And it's tough because you have to grow up so quick, you know.
Mhm.
Like they, like I never got to play, you know, I never got to be a kid. You know, I never got to be uh you know, just go run around in the dirt or go do kid things. You know,
Yeah.
it was always you know, taking care of uh some taking care of my uncle's babies, or you know, taking care of my grandma, making sure she was okay, you know, like doing cooking and cleaning and dishes and you know, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that's one big thing that's like tough on the reservation
Yeah.
in Rock.
I see that. I do see that a lot. And, you know, like with people that I know or just in observation, you know, like there's a lot of kids that take care of their parents in that kind of way. You know, like maybe their parents are sick, you know, they're hungover, they're sick, or they're um, detoxing, or whatever the case may be. And you have these little kids that are literally trying to nurse their parents or their
And
relatives or their caregivers, right?
yeah, and their siblings, you know, trying to take care of their siblings. They're always
And
out.
juggling that, right? And a lot of times, like, they're school age kids, they're little kids, and then they're expected to, go to school, make it to school on time every day, have clean clothes, or whatever, they take a shower, or and sometimes, I mean, I it's hard to hear stories of things like that. Like, I think some people know that I used to work in CPS for a long time, and I had gotten so many calls, about kids coming to school being neglected, because they had stinky clothes, or they were dirty, or and then it's like, for teachers or whoever, is um, seeing these children on a regular basis, it's like you have to like dive deeper into that. Like, what is going on? Like, what's going on at home,
Right.
Um, and it's just like I've just gotten so many reports like that, and then having to like go to the home and speak with the parents or the caregivers, and and they're struggling, and there's a lot of people like they want to be sober, they in my experience, I guess, in working in that field in particular, it's like people, you know these parents, they want to be sober, they don't want to be like that, and sick and using, and then sick again, and then having to use so they're not sick. And a lot of people don't have insurance to go to treatment, or you know what I mean. And I think too, that's kind of the ideation is like, oh, I'm gonna go to treatment and it's gonna fix me, like this is gonna fix me, I'm gonna be fixed. And I've like heard that so many times from individuals and families, and that's kind of the expectation. And it's like somebody comes home, and like you shared, coming home and drinking on the plane and trying to find your next hookup, and then it's like, and then like you're playing it off with your family, um, and then the family finds out and they're like blaming whoever, right? That
Yeah.
treatment didn't fix them. It didn't fix them, and you have to try to explain to people like, okay, well, this person, I mean, they have to want it. And so I don't know, what's your take on that? What's your opinion on all that, especially like, going to a couple of different places, and um, you know, I guess you kind of shared like you already knew. You already knew what your game plan was gonna be.
Yeah.
Even talking with some of your peers coming home at the same time, and how that affected your decision or whatever, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, you definitely have to want it. Like you you have to want it. Like, you have to want it 100%. You can't want it 50. You can't want it, because if you go in there and you halfways want it, I mean, maybe, but for me, it was like if I went in there with 50, I still had, like, I'm gonna do good, but I'm gonna still, I still have it in my mind that I'm gonna go use because that's what I want to do. And once you have your mindset, it's like, it's set, you know? So you've gotta, for me, I had to really go in there, like, and lay it all on the table. It's an all or nothing thing, it's like an all or nothing game, pretty much.
Yeah. um so like on with MHA, I know, you know I know personally because I worked with a lot of people, hundreds of people in the last several years, and knowing getting to know individuals, and you know working with them, talking with them, getting personal, and hearing their stories, and just like watching their transition, from this point to this point to the next point, and then all of a sudden there's a relapse, and it ends with an overdose, but I mean, and it could be like their first time, like their actual first relapse since, you know finishing a program or something like that. And like that's devastating. Like that is so, 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 so devastating. And just as a peer, or like a support person or a relative, or and And you're like, man, that person was doing so good. Like, what the heck happened? You know? And was it because it was like they were just thinking like 50-50, or did something happen? Like, did something trigger that? Or, and like we've lost a lot of people. We've lost so many people, and it's just like it's so sad because you build these relationships with people and you see them, you see people's potential and what, everybody has something to offer. That's why we're here. That's why God placed us here and chose us, to come to this earth. And it's like, man, if their life was ended way too soon, because I feel like all these people, like, they just had so much to offer, and so much. They brought a lot of joy, to other people's lives outside of the addiction piece. And it's hard to lose people in that way, because it's like, man, that's something that you feel like could have been prevented. And
Right.
how does that affect somebody when they're using, when they're losing a friend or a loved one, but they're still in their addiction? What is, I mean, from your perspective, I guess, what is that like?
Um, it's tough. It's really tough because you want to quit. You want to quit because it's like, man, I just lost my best friend. I just lost him to this, and I just lost him to the same stuff that I'm doing, and I want to get out of this, and I don't want to do this anymore. But it's tough. It's tough because it's like you don't want to deal with the grief. You don't want to actually like come to the realization that they're gone forever, and you're never getting them back ever. And
Mhm.
it's like you just keep falling into this deep deep hole, and it's like just hurting yourself, because there's really nothing that you can do but just, you know wish that they would be here.
Mhm.
And and for me, it was like it was a tough time because the second time that I was going to go to Florida, my second treatment, uh, my best friend had passed away. And, I was supposed to get on this plane in like a couple days. And I was supposed to go back to treatment. And it just hit me hard. And it was like I wanted to quit, but I wanted to keep going because, it's what's the point? You kind of get that, what's the point? And like, you kind of fall into, grief. Like everybody grieves different, and that's how I grieved. And that's how it worked for me. And in treatment too, like it was tough to in treatment. It was like, okay, I'm going to, you know, let it out a little bit. Just a little bit though. And when I finally talked about it, it came and it overflowed, and you know everything came out, and I had to like write a letter and stuff to him, and all of that. And it changed a little bit, but at the same time it was like still, because I for me it was like selfish. I was selfish, and I still wanted to use, and I still wanted to not feel the the pain.
Mhm.
And so yeah.
That's, I don't know, like that's a tough emotion, I think, to face, or just feeling those feelings, right? Like
Yeah.
that we talk about, or um, that I've heard a lot of people even share, is like you have to feel those feelings. And I get it, like there's a lot of stuff that we don't want to feel, because it's like you don't want it to be real, or you just, yeah, like you don't want it to be real, and you just want to like wish that, you know, that person could be back, or I don't know. But
And
yeah,
at the same time,
not,
it was like at the same time it was like, dang, like that's like my best friend. Like, how did I not know like he was going through this? How did I not know that, you
right.
know, like why didn't I talk to him, or why didn't what could I have done to like possibly save his life? You
Yeah.
know, and I carried that weight on me for a long time, like the guilt and you know, the regret and yeah, it weighed on me a lot.
Like survivor's guilt.
Yeah.
That's what I was trying to say. I was like, what's the word? But yeah, I mean, even just in any other, you know, situations when people pass away, or like, you know, and you feel like you could have done something, or you should have known, or, you know, like, and at any point in time for you, did that ever become like a trigger? Was that a trigger for you at all?
Um, I think I would like think about it too much because you know I would just forget, you know, and then like little things. It was the little things that brought me back to, you know, I could have done this, I could have done that, and and yeah, it was a little bit of a triggering, but you know, at the same time we've talked and talked. We've talked for like a while about, you know, because we were both like in a depression, and we both were kind of like suicidal, and we both just, you know, were in a deep hole, and we, you know, we were both trying to save each other at the same time.
Mm,
And for me it was like you know, I got hit with this indictment, and um that was my way to get, you know, sober and clean. And you know, like I went away to jail, and you know, he stayed there, he stayed put, still in his feelings, you know, still using. And you know, I was out there having like coping skills, and you know, going to treatment to try to get better. And you know, I kind of like felt um guilty, you know, because we were going through the same thing, and I wish I could have brought him with. And so yeah, that was really triggering too.
yeah. That's, I'm sorry that that happened to you, because that's, I mean, I think a lot of us can kind of relate in a way to that, you know, knowing that we have loved ones or friends, you know, that are feeling that way, or going, you know, experiencing that with each other, or, and then it just, you know, the other person kind of makes the move, and then you're just like, holy cow, like, what the heck?
Yeah.
I thought we were okay because we talked, or we had each other, or, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I kind of was having this conversation a little bit earlier with my niece, because I don't know, we were talking about something, and I'm just like, you know, sometimes when depression just takes over, you you might have your mindset, and you don't want anybody to change your mind. You know, I think, I don't know, in my experience, I've felt that way, you know, and thank God, you know, that it didn't end that way, you know, and that I'm still here today. But it's like you fall into those moments where you're like, yeah, I want to tell somebody about this. I want to share, but I also don't want somebody to change my mind,
Right.
because I'm just, my mind's made up, or whatever. Like, or I don't deserve to be happy, or I don't deserve this, you know, positive emotional feeling. And like, that's tough. I
It's like you almost don't want to be a burden to that person too. Like you don't want to bring them down with because you're feeling depressed or you're feeling negative thoughts, you know. And
right.
it's
And so it's like, you know, for like people that are going to see this, you know, and I hope that um, it reaches people in a good way, that there's other people that have been through that. They understand, we understand, you know, and it's okay. You know, you're not going to be a burden on somebody, and just share, and again, like, I know sometimes we feel that way and we're set and we don't care, and we don't want anybody to change our mind, and we're just gonna do it, and it's like, it's hard to like go back to those times when like we would think like that, or I thought like that, and it's just like, holy cow, like I don't know what in the moment like changed my mind, or what changes other people's minds, but like something clicked. I don't know what it was, and maybe it was creator or spirit helper, or another relative, that their spirit had come to us or something, or came to me and was like, knock it off. Just kidding. But like, yeah, those moments are tough. Those moments are really tough, and it's challenging. But yeah, I mean, if there's anybody out there that feels that way, like, I mean, I know I'm available. I know other people that are available, and just speak up, talk to
Yeah,
us. Don't.
definitely. There's something that I've learned from that, and I definitely take the whole depression, because I still struggle with it too, and I reach out for help. And if there's anybody out there struggling right now, or struggling, I'm here, because I know what it feels like, and I'm sure what it feels like, and it's it's tough,
Mhm.
but there are people out there that understand, and are willing to talk about it, and you know
And I don't want to like just um make it a focus of like, well, just people on the reservation, or just this minority group or that minority group. I mean, it's everybody.
right.
But just, in my experience, you know, um, that's just the population, that's the population that, I mean, I grew up where I grew up, and suicide was like a really major thing. And it was a really awful experience. And I think, um, as a young teenager, seeing that and experiencing so much loss and really not even knowing how to grieve, I don't think, um, it hits you different, because it's like I don't know, for me anyways, it was just like, oh, okay, well, I guess, I mean, that's an option. Like, other people did it, not really knowing, not really understanding like what the consequence was. And the consequence is just like, I mean, that's forever. It's forever. And, and when I was younger, I had a lot of friends that they would cut, or they would do things to just like physically hurt themselves. And I didn't really understand it until I got to that point in time in my life. And then, I started doing things. I didn't cut, but I like carved. I don't know if that's the word. Like, I don't know if that makes any sense. But taking like a sharp object and just like almost engraving on yourself, like things, pictures, or whatever, in places where nobody could see them, because you're wanting to feel that, but you don't want to draw attention to yourself at the same time. And then once that started happening, it was like, okay, then you started thinking, or I started thinking about, okay, well, this isn't going very well for me, so what's my options here, you know and um yeah, like I don't even know how old I was. I probably was still in middle school, maybe. And I remember just, I don't know, this ugly feeling just had come over me, and I was kind of not in a good place either. There's a lot of stuff that happened within the family, and just being like feeling not good enough. Like, okay, well, you know, how come I'm just kind of getting bounced around? It's like it's like you're the ugly stepchild, but not the stepchild. I don't know. And
Yeah.
so, I found myself, and I don't, it's not like I watched a movie. It's not like I saw it on TV. It's not like I heard other people doing it, but I decided I was going to write suicide letters to each of my family members. And I was in middle school, and they were very detailed. I shared in my letters, like my how I felt about each of our relationships, and not placing any blame on anybody, but um, just kind of laying it out like this is my perspective and this is how I feel and this is why, I'm choosing this. And um, they're very detailed. I remember I wrote one to every single one of my siblings and to both of my parents, and I had them in envelopes, and I um, hid them in my drawer. And I don't know. Honestly, I didn't. Nothing happened because I think after I wrote it out, it must have just kind of like taken that feeling away. I don't know, but and then I don't know what happened to the letter. So I'm kind of wondering like if somebody found those and they're like, holy
Yeah.
shit, you know, like oh my God. Um, but
You know,
I
that's crazy that you brought that up because that just brought up a memory. Like I did the same exact thing. I wrote it to all my siblings and to my grandma and to my mom. And you know, I was going to, end it. And that's crazy that you brought that up because that just brought up like, like
yeah.
yeah.
And I don't know, again, like after I wrote those out, like I don't know where that feeling went. So I must have just put it all in on that paper and shoved it in the envelope and put it away, I don't know if I just needed to get it out or what. I don't know. But I mean, there had been, other times after that as I kind of grew up, and um um but thank God, we're both here. There's
Yeah.
people that, unfortunately they're gone and they're not here today. And to see how great, really, honestly, like life can be. And I really appreciate everything that I have today, and I appreciate all the people that I met, including you, and
Yeah.
a lot of other people that I've, had the opportunity to meet, whether it be through work or personal meeting or, through a friend or whatever. Like I value every single one of my relationships with people because I feel like, you know, I can always learn something from them. I don't have all the answers, and I'll tell people that. It doesn't bother me one bit to tell people that I don't have all the answers.
Right.
And so, um, yeah, I don't know, kind of got off topic there, but gee.
I, another thing on the grieving, I think grieving the way I grew up, like the grieving part, the way I grew up, it was like whenever someone passed, or the way we grieved, the way I seen my family members grieve was to drink, you know drink about it, because we're sad. And so I think that's where I also I got that like it was kind of like a tool to me, like obviously not the good tool, the right tool, but that's how like I handled the grieving too.
Just observing other people in your family,
Yeah.
or yeah, people around. Um, what about your experiences at school? Like, did you ever feel that there were like counselors available or your teachers were available, or like what was your experience in that way? I know that you shared that you were using really at a young age, and I mean, had anybody in that system noticed or talked to you about it, or you know at such a young age? I feel like I don't know, I feel like that'd be hard to go undetected. you know
Yeah. um Well, I was really good at like hiding it because I was like always the shy person that nobody really talked to and nobody really, you know, like the outcast pretty
Yeah.
much. So it was like, oh, she's just like that. That's just how she is, you know? So it was like the normal. It was normal for me to be how I was because nobody really knew me, or I feel like got the time to try to know me because I was always like the weird kid, you know. And I mean, I'm sure there was like, I don't really remember there being any like counselors or anything back when I went to school. You know, it was just trying to survive, trying to get to the next level of
Mm-hmm.
the next grade, you know.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I
Did you
think that,
guys? Oh, go ahead.
that's one thing that you know, being in a small town is that we struggle with resources of, you know, counseling and growing up in, you know, such a small school.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Whenever you were like in high school, did you guys have to do those oh, they were like placement assessments or something like that? I remember having to do that when I was maybe, I want to say maybe like a junior or sophomore, junior. I don't remember exactly, but I remember having to do these placement tests. And I share this because I'm curious to know like how many other people have gone through this, like coming from the res basically, like where, you know, did everybody experience this, or is it just something that I noticed, or like, you know, overthinking or what? But I remember taking these placement assessments to kind of, you know, help determine like what you're going to be good at, and you know what field you should go into, and you know, um, stuff like that. And I, what I remember is I remember walking in, and you know, we had to go in like a group of five or however many could fit in that office. And I remember seeing a lot of like non-native students, and joking and laughing and talking with the counselor, and like, and then hearing, you know, so and so like, oh, that's cool, you know, your assessment says that basically like you're cut out to be a doctor, you're cut out to be this, you're cut out to be blah 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 blah. And then, you know, sitting with other like native students and not sharing that kind of same like experience as the non-native students. And our counselor was, he was non-native man, and I'm not saying anything, you know, negative in that way, just I just like that connection wasn't there. And literally the majority of the people that I knew, because like those placement assessments basically said you're good enough and you're cut out to go into the military, you know, and like that's the only option, you know.
Right.
You're not cut out to be a nurse, you're not cut out to be a doctor, you're not cut out to be a businessman, you're not cut out blah 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 blah, you know. And I just like wonder, you know, how often does that happen, or is it just something that like I'm overthinking, or you know, just did anybody else, you know, in my grade or whatever, did anybody else notice that? Or you know, again, like am I just overthinking it and just making something up in my head? But you know, I'm kind of wondering. And I feel like when situations like that happen, like it just makes kids feel even more stuck, and like this is the life that I have to live for the rest of my life, you know. And it's not going to get any better because I'm not cut out to be something better than this. And then it just like, I feel like a lot of our kids like don't feel like they deserve to be happy, or they deserve to be able to work towards these bigger and better goals, or you know, because they're Native, because they're a minority, or because they're come from a poor background, or whatever the case may be. And like, that's tough. For me, that's tough because I feel like our kids have so much potential. Just I mean, like, no matter what race you are, like, our children, you know, they're the future, and they have so much potential. And then having these, really honestly, I think they were really stupid, having these placement assessments to, you know, basically determine or give you an idea of like what you can be. Like, I feel like that just closes off people's minds, and
Right.
that's where we feel stuck, because don't have you know, we have a lot of recruiters coming to our school. And you know what, I don't say, I mean, I'm nothing against the military, because I come from a family with a lot of military, on both sides. Not saying that, but it's like, is that really the only thing we're cut out to be? You know, how come we're not having like medical professionals or attorneys, or like other options, like coming to our schools and talking to our kids and setting up booths for college, or what, a trade school or whatever, you know? um I don't know if that's something that's um impacted you, or if anything that you noticed growing up or anything like that, but that's just been my experience and what I've noticed, I guess, when I was growing up. And I'm just curious to see how many other people out there notice those things. Does that make sense? Because I kind of went off again.
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay. I have to tell the story like all the way around before I get to my point. So,
Yeah, yeah, that definitely does make
okay.
sense. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I'll just stop talking for a minute. But really quick, I just wanted to see if there's anybody out there that had any questions, and I did see some. So if you're okay with it, um, somebody here, one of our viewers said, do you think in order for someone to sober up from dope, they have to go to jail? What's your opinion?
Um, I mean, again, I think it really falls back into if they really want it. Like, if you really want it, if you really want to be sober off of, you know, any type of substance, alcohol, dope, fentanyl, you know, anything, um, I don't think that jail necessarily does anything for you. I know for me, when I was in jail, it was just like, you know, more in my head of how of a disappointment I was, and how of things that I could have done. And you know, it I just don't think jail does anything for people that actually need help, you know, that need to be in a treatment center, and not in jail. You know, I mean, you know, they have the EDOs, and you know, people sit until they go to jail. But I mean, again, that falls back into the person that wants to be sober,
Mm-hmm.
um, and wants to get the help. You know, because you can ask for help, and you can ask for help, and you know, until you actually get the help, and you know, people help you, it's after that it's your decision on what you do with that help. You
Right.
know.
That's a good point. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on uh, like accountability, taking responsibility for your own actions? If it's something that, I guess you kind of touched on a little bit, but just to kind of repeat it, like, you've done something wrong and you got caught and you have to sit in jail. And you know, um, I know in my experience, you know, working um, in the field that I had for quite some time, um, I got so many phone calls and so many texts from the jails, and so many this, so many that, so many family members, so many, you know, and it's like, not in a judgmental way. I'm not saying this in like a judgmental way. And so I hope, if there's anybody listening, hey, that I've worked with, um, they don't think that. But it's kind of like, uh, a lot of times people, in my experience, have used going to treatment as like a get out of jail free card. I hate to say it that way. Sorry, but I don't know any other way to like say it. And I think it just, I mean, it shows, whatever that person's real intentions are. If they get the opportunity to go to treatment or get services and, do really well, or they finish, they complete it, or, and they're doing their best to maintain their sobriety. But then there's some that, you're just like, man, I know this person's gonna run the second thought.
Yeah.
And it happens so many times, and it's just like, I mean, that's just the reality of it. That's the reality of it. And um, there's a lot of stories about, stuff like that happening, and it's like, man, I knew it. I knew that was gonna happen, and but there's nothing you can do, right? Because it's the individual's, decision how they, how they want that to go. So, yeah, accountability for, you know, personal actions and, getting in trouble, getting caught, or, I know a lot of times there were situations where people they had charges that they had to sit on before they could get released to go to a program. And family and the individuals, they would be mad, and they'd be calling this person and that person and that, them over there and them over here, and saying they're not letting me go to treatment, they're not letting me go, and I think it's because they don't like me, or da 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 da, right? And it's like, no, that's not the reason. It's because so and so has major charges and they have been running for a long time, and they have to sit on them before we can allow, them to go to treatment. And it wasn't my decision, and I think that's something that people had a hard time kind of understanding, like it wasn't my decision, but it's like, no, this is the court. The court makes these decisions, and if they say somebody has to sit and, on charges and clear this up, you know, before they can go to treatment. Like, I think a lot of times people had a hard time with that accountability piece. So I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, accountability is definitely like a big role when you come into recovery, when you're trying to get sober, and it's tough because it's like, oh, I like you want to make excuses on why you did those because you were in addiction or this and that, but I mean, it's like you've got to face them sometime, and that's you got to hold yourself accountable. You've got to even in recovery, you still got to hold yourself accountable to stay sober and to keep a job and to do all the things that is going to keep you on the right path, and being in a sober living home, I know that uh we have other women to try to hold accountable too, because that's like wanting the right things and wanting the good things for them. So, if you see someone out there like, not doing good things, it's like, hey, like, just call them out on it, and like hold them accountable for it if they're, and I'd do that with myself too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I expect like, my mentor or my peers, the woman in the house that I'm like, if I'm doing something or if I'm like, to hold me accountable and tell me that, like, hey, you're slacking on this, or hey, so
Yeah. Tell us just a little bit, like, I guess I don't want to take up too much time, but tell us what it's like. What is sober living? What is it like? What's your experience been like? And is it something that, personally you would recommend to other people? Or yeah, just I want to know your experience, because I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that don't know what sober living is, and they're they have no idea, you know.
Right. Sober living for me is basically like a chance to get back on my feet. You know, a chance to get a new house, to get a job and stay in this place and where they're gonna hold you accountable on passing these drug tests and you know, going to meetings and all that. But I do have to say there is some like Blessed Builders, the one that I'm at now, it's a really good place. Um, if you're like if you have the willpower and you want to stay sober, because it is really lenient and you have a lot of um, leverage to go and do stuff, you know, a lot of leverage to be free. And like if you need structure, if you needed like a more structured place, then I would definitely suggest like Hope Manor or something,
Yeah.
because if you need structure, like, you know, the ones where you have like, you know, like phases and stuff. I mean, you have phases here, but it's like here is like, you know, they're not like on your butt like all the time, like, hey, you need to do this, hey, you need to do that, you can't go here, like you have to have someone with you. No, it's like a lot of like self responsibility and self accountability. And so it's definitely been tough, like, you know, with I see like women come and go and it sucks, but it's like you know, if you need that structure and you need that extra push, or you need like, you know, someone telling you what to do and how to do it, then you know, I don't yeah.
I I I guess in my mind I'm thinking if you've been through a program that offers that piece, you know, and well, and the other thing, like having to keep in mind, okay, that there are a lot of people that have never even learned how to do certain things. You know, they don't know how to cook. They don't know how to clean. Like that's nothing. I mean, that's something that, you know, they were never expected to do, or they just didn't live like that.
Right.
Totally different lifestyle. And then, you know, getting into a program, you know, and I understand like, man, sometimes that's a hard adjustment for individuals because they're like, what? I gotta make my bed every day, or like, oh, we gotta turn the lights off when we leave the room, or just, you know, something like that where that, you know,
Got
they're not used
curfew. Yeah,
to,
yeah.
right? Yeah, curfew, that's another one, or like not being able to have um a phone, you know, while in a program. And I, man, I don't even know. I can't even count like how many times, you know, that was like the biggest question. Can I have my phone? Well, if I can't have my phone, then I'm not going. You know, it's like, oh, come on. You know, that's just kind of another excuse, but it's like, you know, like being okay with other people's rules, you know, or the program's rules. And that's such a difficult adjustment I've seen, you know, with a lot of people. And but if you're willing, if you know the individual is willing to accommodate and just kind of be, let themselves be teachable, like that's when we've seen the most success. You know,
Yeah.
just kind of being that vulnerable person, and it's okay. Like it's okay if you don't know how to do the dishes. It's okay. Like, you know, we'll teach you, we'll show you. If you don't know how to do your laundry, that's okay, because we're gonna help you, you know, and not feeling like you're being judged because you're 20 something years old or 30 something years old and you don't know how to do your laundry. Like, you know, like those are just basic skills that, you know, not everybody has been taught that. And then, you know, if you're working with individuals that are going through those phases, like not not to judge, you know, not to judge those people, because you don't know, you know, you don't know the life that they came from. Maybe they didn't have a wash machine, you know, maybe their caregiver wash their clothes in the sink or outside, or there's still a lot of people that live that lifestyle that they don't have electrical appliances, and they kind of live old school, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Sure, it's save on bill,
Yeah.
but like when you're working with people, like again, in in that way, like being respectful, being non-judgmental, like because these are things that, I mean, like just not everybody knows,
Right.
understanding that. So, man, I've seen that. I mean, I've come across that a lot where they're like, gee, so and so didn't even, know how to, tie their shoe. They still wear Velcro shoes or whatever. And it's just like, you know, don't judge. You don't know, you know.
Yeah.
Anyways, a little bit off.
Um,
But
big adjustment for me too is like having to change everything that you learned and everything that you knew, everything that you thought you knew was right. Like people and places and things. Like I've had to give up like a lot of, family relationships and friendships that we're still out there using. Like you can't come into sober living and still hang out with the same people and do the same things and expect different results
mm-hmm,
because same thing. Like it was really tough for me to change, my whole life on who I hang out with and who I talk to and where I go hang out at and the things I do. And yeah, that was tough, but after a while, you're like, okay, this is the things that I thought that I knew are pretty detrimental to my life. So now I gotta make some changes and I've got to learn how to do all these new things and I've got to learn how to, be on my own and, learn how to make new friends that are supportive and that are good and, um, be with family that's going to support you, and that's not going to try to lead you back in that same spot.
mm-hmm.
So,
And then like, how about, I know it's hard, like sometimes, when people are making those adjustments and in those changes in their lives and, having to make that decision to kind of not, maybe not totally exclude, other people that they care about, from their lives, but having to kind of love people from a distance or having a relationship, a friendship from a distance because they won't be able to maintain their sobriety if they're continuously like hanging out with the same crowd, and it's like, it's not that I don't want to be your friend, it's just, be I can't hang out around that, and so I think that too, like that's something that I feel I understand that because I think I've shared before that you know my significant other is also, sober, and that was a decision that he made on his own, and I had nothing to do with that. And I think at in those moments it was like, oh, she's just trying to keep you away, and it's like, no, I had nothing to do with that, and that's something that he made a decision on his own. Like he knew that for himself, like he had to kind of like step away for a bit, to maintain his sobriety. And so, which, um, and it's not that we don't care, about those people, it's just can't be around it, if you want to maintain sobriety. So that's something that I've kind of experienced, I guess, myself and with, some of my other loved ones and stuff. So, um, yeah. Um, I don't know. I don't even know what else to say. I feel like we've talked about a lot, and I don't know if anybody else has any questions, or is there anything? Oh, you have something coming up. Can you
oh
talk?
yeah, um, June 2nd, the sober living that I'm at, the Blessed Builders, the ministry, we are gonna be heading down to Cannonball for the day, and we are going to, just do an outreach, have a barbecue, do toy giveaways, and just have fun with the community, and get out there and let them enjoy the summer. And we got some pastors coming from Minnesota, and it should be a good time, you know, for people to come out and just enjoy themselves and have fun, and you know.
Yeah. What, so you said June 2nd, and what are the times for that?
June 2nd, it's going to start at I think we're gonna set up at like 1.
Okay. Well,
1 and
um,
start no, I think we're gonna set up and do like a prayer, like before we do everything at like 11 o'clock, and
oh,
then 1, everything is gonna start. It's gonna be like a whole day thing, so like 1 from like 2 is just gonna be like enjoying games and like fun times and stuff. I don't know exactly what all we're gonna do. I think we're gonna try to like throw a little 3-on-3 and like some of that stuff. Yeah, and then we're gonna be giving out bikes and basketballs and toys to
okay.
the kids there. So,
That's
and we're gonna a barbecue too. And then
awesome. Um, so 11, and then where at in Cannonball, so that way people know.
the red gym.
Okay.
Yeah, that's where we're gonna be, like in the parking lot and in the gym too. So
Okay.
yeah.
Cool. So do you guys, I don't remember, do you guys have a name for your event?
I think if they just put tip of the rock outreach or something like that. I don't know. I have actually a couple flyers too, and I'll be posting it again on my Facebook,
Okay.
and handing out some flyers too. So
All right. And then yeah, I'll do the same on my end. I will kind of share that information over again. I'm actually really excited for that because I'm like, dang, this is cool. It should be fun, you know.
I know, me too.
But
I just off to for my boss. I was like, hey, I got an event going on. I need this day off. So yeah.
cool. Well, I'm excited, and I think I know you and I talked a little bit about maybe possibly taking that into Standing Rock a little more.
Yeah.
Um, literally tip of the rock, Cannonball, right? You have the whole rest of the mountain, you know what I mean? And we extend into South Dakota, um, Lidlego, Running Antelope, where I'm from. So we're
We
on.
got somewhere. It's all yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited, and I'll be there. Hope to see a lot of people there, and yeah. Is there anything else, maybe in town that you guys have coming up, or any other
Oh,
you want to share?
I don't think so. I think yeah. I mean, I go down there sometimes too to pick up trash and stuff, but the cannonball cleanup, it looks good down there. So,
That's good.
hopefully I have to go down and pick up trash for a while.
Yeah. And you know what? That's something too, like I don't even know that people realize is that like we come from some of the most like beautiful land. You know what I mean? Like I mean, I think a lot of people take it for granted because man, Standing Rock is beautiful. It's just, and right now, because of all the rain, it's so green. And I'm like, holy man, this is like amazing just to see everything. And I try to take a lot of pictures because I'm like, summer's coming, it might dry up. Might not look
Right.
like this. But, just like taking in that moment to like really like, holy cow, like this is life and I'm seeing this in real life and breathing in the air. Um, take your shoes off and walk around in the grass or in the mud down at the river. They talk about grounding, regrounding yourself, and that's true. I can tell you that for one, like that is so true. When I start feeling um, really overwhelmed and anxious and like, oh, like the bottle's full, like I can't fit anything else in. The best thing that I found myself to do was just, find my place where I need to where I can reground myself, and that's back home. Like that's back home in the country, down by the river, or just even out in the prairie, like that's just where I'm able to ground myself. So being able to identify something positive where you can go and kind of reset, for the week, the day, or, even the hour, if you have to reset just in, a couple of times a day, that's okay, but find your safe place and your safe space where you can just kind of let it all out, let it go, and just refresh. I don't know. Do you have a space like
Uh,
that?
no.
No. Well, it's good. I do. I recommend it. I recommend it just personally because it's just like, holy cow. But sometimes maybe it's the basketball court, or maybe it's the gym, or it's the sauna, or whatever, whatever people do. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I definitely just recommend for, just to relieve anxiety and stress and whatever, like just find that space to kind of regroup. So, that's kind of all I have. I guess the only other thing that I want to mention is that we do have our Families Anonymous group. We have a group in McLaughlin, South Dakota, every third Thursday of the month at 5 p.m. Central. And then I'll be starting another group in Fort Yates every Wednesday evening from, what did I say, 5:30 to whenever we're done. And I'm hoping that people will come, to just to be a support for other people. And, there's a lot of us that are going through the same things. And I don't think people know that because, right, a lot of times in our families, it's all hush hush. It's like, oh, don't be saying that. Don't be telling people that. Or, maybe some people are just kind of in denial. Like, no, Johnny wouldn't do that, or whatever. So it's just like, until it hits somebody, in the face, and they're like, holy cow, But yeah, so we have our Families Anonymous groups. And then what else? We have Community Alliance group, which is really amazing. They are fixing up the old Heritage building in McLaughlin. And they just have a lot of really amazing projects that they're working on, and they're going to be able to bring to the community. And I'm really excited. So I'm really hoping that we can get you and other people to come and just kind of check it out, and hopefully bring even, your group to have activities. I remember growing up in McLaughlin, they had this big park right in Main Street, and like, man, there would be like church groups and other, Boys and Girls Club and just other youth groups. And throughout the summer, and the park would just be filled with kids. Oh my gosh. It was like, I don't know, it was like a whole week or two, full of like activities for kids. And we don't really see that so much anymore. And I really want to bring that back. And I know there's a lot of people that want to bring that back too. So I'm hoping that your guys' project, we can bring you guys down and do the same. So kind of bring that livelihood back, So anyways, I'll stop rambling because that's what I do. I get kind of carried away in the conversation, or start talking about something and go off. But yeah, so that's kind of all I have. And if you have anything else, Joe, feel free anytime, share. And I always ask people to just share. If you have activities coming up or you have resources, I think resources is the biggest thing, right now. There's a lot of like, working on it and trying to develop these resources in our communities back home. But in the meantime, if we have to utilize outside resources, I mean, we have to do what we got to do to, help our people and in a good way. So if you have anything like that, I know that there's places up here in Bismarck, the hub is one where people go for meetings. I don't really know where else that's kind of, I think Good Road Recovery has meetings. There's other programs, other, I guess, treatment facilities that have open meetings too. So if you have any questions, anybody could just reach out and we will share that information with you. So yeah, I think we had a good time, and I'm really grateful, Joel, that you joined me today and agreed to share your story. And you know, um, you're at that place in your life where you can talk about things, and share your story. So yeah, I'm really grateful. I'm really thankful for that. So
Yeah. Thank you, and grateful to be here. And yeah, thanks again.
yeah. So again, Joel Smith. She is our guest today, and from my lodge to your lodge, I, share blessings, share gratefulness, share humility, and we just live our life in the best way. And yeah, all right. Well, everybody have a good night, and we'll talk to you again, Joel. I'm excited to
Yep.
see you at your event. Okay,
All right. Yeah.
I'll see ya.